Hello all! Today I'll be working on a hypoallergenic scarf made from donated yarn from a follower. I'll also be talking about how sometimes my work will cascade similarly colored yarn into more projects, ending up with similar but still unique pieces. I hope you enjoy. My name is Took. I'm a disabled genderqueer weaver who's had life take odd turns, but who knows that even tattered and worn yarn still has value, and that tired joints and health flares don't have to stop the journey. I weave exclusively with secondhand fibers, aided with adaptive warping, HR and OSHA cats, and a wonderful found family. Welcome to Hawksong Weaving, where all our paths are a little bit warped. First, a bit of an explanation on why I've developed this adaptive warping method. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which has cascaded into postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So for time's sake, know that I have joints that don't work, and if I shift positions too quickly, I get pre-syncope or pre-fainting symptoms. All of this comes with chronic pain, so for a lot of reasons, a traditional warping board doesn't work for me, along with being really expensive and taking up a lot of space in my small studio. So I'll use an accordion coat rack as my warping board. It's nice and neat, it contracts into a nice smaller space, and I can adjust it as I need to. And I don't need to be up and down and all around and having tachycardia, a racing heart, that stresses out my medical alert cat Penelope Calico. I love her so much, but I'm never getting another Calico ever again. She's not trained, she just has fortitude and is willing to scream her opinions of my heart rate at me. Sigh. For this particular project, I'm starting with the sort of blue slate green that I finished the last warp with. This lets me use the rest of that ball of yarn, and then I will add on a little bit of extra yarn and just keep going with this particular yarn colors until I'm done with this particular batch of yarn. This allows me to have similar products, but they're still entirely unique, and also lets me play with color and texture in ways that I really enjoy. With the warp threads sorted, I'm lifting up the loom to release the warping board from the loom, gathering the warp threads into one large bundle, and using the back of my neck to drape them over and keep them tidy and out of the way while I collapse the warping board. This loom is a 15-inch wide shocked cricket loom. It's a rigid heddle loom, and I love it so much. It's made of birch, it's very sturdy, it can take a beating, but it's light enough that I can lift it even when I'm having a pain or fatigue day. It's also one of the cheapest looms on the market, averaging around $250 at time of filming. I use terry cloth towels to cushion the warp threads. This helps prevent the finished weaving from being tighter at the ends and looser in the middle, creating a sort of sausage profile in the weaving. This is especially critical with acrylic yarn because I can't steam block it to the same extent that I can wool blends. The way I warp has me cutting the warp loops at the end of winding the warp. This is what's easiest on my body. It won't work for everyone, but that's okay. This isn't a great angle, but I'm being careful to pay attention to how the warp threads are laying on the back bar of the loom, and the right hand thread goes through the smaller hole in the rigid heddle reed. It's not critical, and some minor mistakes aren't the end of the world, but it does make it easier to keep the tension of the warp threads even across the entire weaving. Having the yarn be asymmetrical towards the end is entirely common because of how it's built up depth, for lack of a better term, while winding around the pegboards or warping boards. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, some free ways to do that are to like, subscribe or follow, and share. This applies to other small artists as well. It's a great way to let the social media algorithms know that this is content worth watching. If you'd like to support me financially, there's a Buy Me a Coffee linked below, which acts as sort of a tip jar. Also, now that there are so many of you absolutely fantastic and wonderful subscribers, I've been able to link the online Hawksong Weaving shop, so feel free to check out the unique handwoven products. This next bit is absolutely a joke, but just in case, in this economy, I won't say no. For $1,000 a month, you can tell me that I'm not actually disabled, I'm just lazy, and to try whatever yoga, juice cleanse, snake oil nonsense fixed your cousin. Feel free to message me and I'll get you my payment deets. I take Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and check for this nonsense. Feel free to mail a check or, more likely, donations of yarn, buttons, etc. to the P.O Box listed down below. If you're able to direct your attention and a bit of energy towards the Mill River Marginalized Artists Collective, it's a non-profit that I helped found, but had to step away from because my health wouldn't allow me to stay as involved. But it's providing a helpful service in my area to marginalized artists, so all of their information is linked down below as well. Now that the rigid heddle reed is fully threaded, I'm attaching the warp to the bottom apron bar, which is pretty easy. I finger comb it, get it separated into bits about 4 to 5 warp threads wide, separate these bits into 2, and then do a half hitch tie to the apron bar. If your fingers are hypermobile, please be careful when doing this, as the pressure can bend them backwards, and that is not comfortable. Now I'm getting the next terry cloth towel put into place and cinching things tighter as I need to. I love working with acrylic for warps. It's so incredibly sturdy. It's going to last forever, which is both a good thing and a bad thing, but it also holds tension incredibly well, unlike a lot of thinner, less evenly spun wools or natural fibers. Acrylic is popular for a reason. Now on to the actual weaving. This was such a fun, delightful project to weave. I was able to use some of the green, like the sort of sage green left over from last week's project, and do a fun banding towards the bottom of this scarf. I love doing this sort of asymmetrical banding on one end because it allows me to just fully let the yarn be used, let it shine through. It creates some contrast and some interest, and it lets me, again, cascade the yarn into future projects. I love playing with color like this. I will regularly watch Transcend Furniture Gallery, who's also on YouTube. Go check out her content if you're not familiar. And she will often do this sort of like sage pine green mixed with a dark toned wood stain. And it's one of my absolute favorite color combinations. So being able to play with these colors is just so much fun. And I get to play with fiber texture types because this is a relatively like smooth acrylic yarn that I'm using to create this contrast. And then I'll do an extra band of the nubby Secondhand Lions brand. I think it's a homespun is the style. It's so delightfully nubby and soft, and I like being able to play with yarn and textures. Why would you not do so if you have the opportunity? I guess this absolutely falls under the category of yarn joy because it's just so much fun. And for other weavers, what I'm doing here at the 45-degree angle, the pinching at the edges of the selvages, that is how I get my incredibly straight selvages, which is the most commonly given compliment to me from other weavers is, holy crow, how do you get your selvages like that? And the answer is practice that 45-degree angle, pinch, and making sure that you have enough space in the shed to fully get that 45-degree angle while pinching along the sides of the selvage. But yeah, I'm so excited for how this is turning out. And that is the last bit of that sort of sage green that I've got. I'm getting it tucked back in the shed, and then moving back to that nubby, glorious sage green, pine green that is the Lion Brand secondhand yarn. I'm now tying off the scarf fringes. I prefer to do a 2x2 warps tied into a fringe of 4, but I will do a double sliding knot of 3 if I don't have a wide enough warp. I can already tell that this scarf is going to have turned out absolutely beautifully. The hint of the blue, I'm probably going to end up calling this something along the lines of like spruce, blue spruce or something like that. Just, it's got that smokiness, it's got that sort of like yeast bloomed blue of the blue spruce, and I love how this turned out. And now unrolling it and seeing it in its full glory for the first time. I am finishing this the day before I have the Northampton sidewalk sales, so that is when this was filmed, and I'm really excited to see if this sells during the sidewalk sales. I'm having a 20% off sale on scarves all summer because y'all keep mailing me yarn. You keep mailing me yarn, and I'm running out of storage space. It's so rude. It's not actually rude. I am incredibly appreciative and continually shocked that this YouTube thing actually seems to be working. And my partners and therapist and friends are all very, very smug. You keep making my therapist do that smug face. You know, the one that therapists do. But yeah, tying things off, and I'm so incredibly excited for how this scarf has turned out. Because look at this! This is so cool! Just the play of colors and textures. It's so incredibly yummy and warm and cozy, and it's just, it's absolutely delightful. I usually steam block my scarves for the ones that are wool, but because this is acrylic and is particularly a fuzzy acrylic, I don't want it to melt. So, oh well. But now that it's all finished, I'm eyeballing the length of the fringe that I want and using the don't ask me how much I spent on these good shears and trimming it. The final step is between 15 minutes to half an hour of tying the fringe knots. It's not necessarily critical for acrylic yarn, but it adds a nice finished level to the product that I like to do. Also, it's just a nice way of like mentally tying off the project before I move on to the next one. And here is the scarf that I finished last week, still hanging up on the wall from when I was last doing the taking pictures of it, and you can see how that yarn cascaded into this next project for the warp and the weft, and I'm just so incredibly pleased with how this turned out. Yee! And now the new one has taken the old one's place, and you can see it up and hanging, and just, oh, I'm so incredibly glad. Thank you for coming along as I wove this scarf. I'm so glad for the odd turn that your path took that brought you here. Thank you for spending time with me at Hawksong Weaving, where we're all a bit warped, and I hope that you have a truly excellent week.